If you need a sales letter or a VSL or an email campaign or an ad or an advertorial or a website, for coaches, let's say you need a coaching specific VSL, then you just go into Benson and choose that framework because it's been trained on coaching VSLs. And then it's literally copy paste, fill in a few fields that maybe that we wouldn't know, like what's your name or, what's the name of your offer, how much you're selling it for. It takes you literally a minute to fill that in. And then as it needs things, it'll prompt you for things as you go along. Like, oh, I don't know this. Do you have like a nickname? Really, like no copy. And you click it and out comes this copy that seems like there's a copywriter living in your computer.
Wow. All right. Well, welcome to the Abundant Coach. And I have to tell you, I'm pretty excited about our next guest here. Full transparency, I'm totally fangirling over this next guest. So our next guest is someone who is known as the $1 billion copywriter. I didn't say million, I said billion with a B, because for his clients and customers, he's helped create $12 billion in revenue. He is someone who is the creator of something I know many of you are familiar with, which is the VSL, the video sales letter, super groundbreaking. And even more groundbreaking, the creator of a new technology that uses AI called Benson. So welcome to the Abundant Coach, John Benson. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Super excited to have you. So I just have to say, because I'm fangirling, like I said, when I took your advice on video sales letters and those things before I came to BTI and had my own coaching business, it was game changing for me as a coach. So first of all, thank you for the continuous output of cool things that you give to us.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
So many of our coaches that are listening to this podcast are experimenting with technology somewhat. They're familiar with it. They're not familiar with it. And over the last, I feel like 12 to 18 months, we've been hearing so much about AI and the terrors of AI and the benefits of AI. So for those of us who are not super in that world, can you just describe what is AI and do we need to be super scared of it?
I don't think you need to be afraid of it unless you're talking about, general intelligence versus narrow intelligence, which is what we're dealing with right now in something like a chat tool like Chat or Claude or something like that. The people that should be, I guess, alarmed is probably too stern of a word, but on guard about it are people that make their living creating words that sell. So for copywriters and for anyone in the marketing space, to not have AI as a tool that you know how to leverage is tantamount to not being on the internet in 2003. So it's there were people that weren't on the internet in 2003 that are, and very few of them are still in business. So it's that inflection point again in history. And you could even make the argument this is like 1997, 1998, like going way back. So where being on the internet was not a compulsory thing. It wasn't like you had to do it, but the people that saw the handwriting on the wall were way ahead of the curve. So that's kind of where we are with AI. AI is just exponentially faster, growing exponentially faster, doing exponentially more things than the internet could even do. So. So in that sense, I think people are naturally a little fearful of new technologies, new things in general, but definitely new technologies. And this one is definitely new and very hard to understand for some people, for me too. And I have an AI company, so don't feel bad if that's you. But it's certainly disruptive in the sense of destabilizing people's employment opportunities for sure, especially if you're a writer or a musician or you're doing things that require that can now be done, or a coder that can now be done with AI, and that's a little bit disruptive. But I think of it as the ultimate power tool. It's like giving, especially a copywriter, a marketer, a coach, people that require words to sell their businesses. It's if you understand this, it's putting you in. It's can and cloning you in ways that you couldn't possibly do before. So I think it's pretty exciting.
Very cool. So for us coaches, or some of the coaches who listen to this podcast who they're starting to build their business. They're not using a ton of technology yet. They might not even know that they're writing copy, but they're writing copy. Can you just give us like, what is copy? I know that's like the most basic question I could ask John Benson, but just what is copy?
No, it's a very important question. So copy, the best way to explain copy is the words needed to sell what you do to the world. So how do you communicate what you do to the world in a way that not only resonates with you personally, but also resonates with your potential buyers? And those are often two different things. So copywriting is the ability to communicate not only what you do in a way that's ethical and integral to you, but also resonates with your potential buyers, gets them to take action.
Some of our coaches, and I know I've messed with it a little bit myself, and definitely people within our company, mess with it. ChatGPT is probably the most common thing that people are trying to use if they're trying to use AI in their business. They're shaky with it. They're just getting started. And what I've noticed about ChatGPT myself is if I'm reading copy or I'm approving something in the coach certification division, I can look at it and I'm like, okay, that's ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Which is right. We don't want that, right? I'm like,
Right.
Someone just completely wrote that with ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what the limits are of ChatGPT and why, as a copywriter, what should I be thinking about?
Well, there's a reason I built my own app for this. So it's not like, I think people, sorry, my head must be shrinking here. But there's a reason why a tool like ChatGPT, which I use almost every day, it's ubiquitous now for a lot of like tech business owners for sure. It will soon be ubiquitous for anyone in business. But for copywriting, in specifically copywriting, it takes a lot to get good copy out of ChatGPT. If you go into ChatGPT and say, write me 3 emails about this, and you upload a little document, the emails are going to sound, if it doesn't say, here's the kicker somewhere in the email, I'd be shocked. It's the worst copy on the planet. And so I look at it as a professional copywriter and I die a little bit on the inside every time I read something that the chat writes without anything other than just a prompt. And hence the phrase I came up with that kind of stuck with people for the last 2 years is you can't prompt your way to good copy. It's not something that unless you're a prompt engineer, and even then you'd have to be a prompt engineer and a professional copywriter to pull that off. It's not the best way to go about using ChatGPT. It's super good for using things like, like let's say that you've got 10,000 words written down and you need to get a summary of it or things like that. You can't beat it, right? But when it comes down to doing something creative and you need copy that actually works, you're going to get very trite copy. Now, the problem is this is where the biggest problem is. Everyday people are training this thing by saying, oh, this is great, this is good, this is bad. Out of those everyday people, 1 out of what, 1 million? 2 million, 5 million are copywriters. 1 out of 100 million are good copywriters. So it's trained on pure crap. That's the problem. And so, so it's not trained to be a copywriter. It's trained to be a utilitarian tool for everything AI in a chatbot. So that's the challenge that people face. The cool thing is when they say, I need 3 emails, and I put a little bit of, give it a little context, like here's my pitch, here's my sales page, you copy it in there, and give me 3 emails, and it will find stuff from your sales page and write you 3 emails, and you're more focused on how cool it is that it's writing 3 emails instantaneously. Wow, it would take me like an hour or 2 to do that. That's awesome. And the question is, do they convert? So let's just strip away what it can do, because it looks magical. It kind of feels magical. Does it work? Does it convert? And as a copywriter in the trenches that's doing this day in and day out, I will tell you right now that every professional copywriter will tell you, to get it to do what we get it to do requires either, again, you're like us, you're prompt engineers and copywriters, which is very rare, or you just have infinite patience with this, and you train what's called a GPT. You train your own GPT, and it can get really technically mind-boggling. So it's not to the point yet where maybe GPT-5 will be to that point, which comes out at the end of the year. Maybe it's GPT-6, who knows, where you type in and it actually understands nuances of all the little things that we copywriters understand. It sounds more human. It doesn't use stupid phrases like "here's the kicker" or start everything with a question. Like it's the mind-numbing things that AI does. We have this whole list of them. So you're not alone if this is something that you're getting output rather, and you're going, that's just so cheesy. It's like it uses these lame analogies and metaphors. It's like it's adjective crazy,
Yes. Oh my gosh, the adjectives.
Yeah.
The adjectives.
Yeah. It's like really super duper amazing. It's like,
it's funny. We have our programs director here at Brave Thinking Institute. One of the people in the C-suite has been telling her, like, your voice needs to sound more enthusiastic when you write emails. So she'll run it through ChatGPT and she'll be like, please make me sound more enthusiastic. And then it'll come back and I'll say, okay, now let's delete like 3 or 4 of the adjectives in that sentence.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
I think
adjectives and adverbs
to spice it up a little bit there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
you'll stunningly and amazingly lose more. It's crazy with what it does with adverbs and adjectives.
It really is wild. I think that the cool thing for our beginning coaches about using ChatGPT is we've had coaches they're not copywriters. They've never done this before. They're wanting to just send like their newsletter email to their clients or something like that. There might not even be a call to action or a sales in it, but they sit there and they stare at a blank page because they're not writers, and they sit there for hours and they don't know what to write. So I think part of the benefit is like, okay, like if I'm going to use it to just get my mind moving, so I'm not sitting here for hours torturing myself, great. And we want to know the limits of it and what doesn't convert and what does.
Right. Well, to get ideas, to get some spark, to if you communicate with it as you would a person, this is going to be helpful. If you tell it what it is, like, okay, you're a world-class copywriter, you're not a poet, you're going to write something that's going to be intriguing without starting with a lot of questions. Forget that adverbs exist. But okay, just that little thing that I rattled off right there. You'd have to know to tell it those things, and then how to talk to it in that language. So a friend of mine said, well, you used to train people on how to write copy. Now you're training people how to write copy for an AI. It's kind of the same thing, it's copy for an AI is essentially what a prompt engineer is. So, I don't find that to be the best use of our time.
Well, and also if I knew how to be a prompt engineer, I wouldn't be sitting here staring at a blank page because I'd probably just be writing the copy.
Right.
Yeah. So I want to ask you 2 questions just kind of about the history of all of this. But the first one is, how did you get trained on copy? So you're the best copywriter in the world. How do you become that? Like, what precipitated that?
Well, thank you. I don't think I would label myself that, but I'm usually recognized as one of the top guys around, and that's very flattering. I look at the other guys I look at and go, man, they're so much better. But I didn't set out to become a copywriter. I was, I was just a fitness guy that wrote a book. And didn't have a way to market it. And then I partnered up with a guy that studied copywriting under the legend John Carlton, one of the greatest copywriters alive. And I was, when he wrote the sales page for my book, I was just horrified by it. It was like, what on earth is this? This is 5,000 words long. Who on earth is going to read this? And who is this guy you're talking about? It's like, what is going on? I didn't understand any of the nuances of copywriting at all. And then the book hit 1,007 on Alexa the first day it was launched. So it was the 1,007th most popular website on the whole internet. So that's crazy. That's back in 2004. So this is like, in the days where you could actually do that. And we just shattered every record you could think of. It came down to ClickBank, which is the vendor we were on. And so I was like, okay, I should probably look into this copy thing. And my next book came out. I was more focused on the books and the actual stuff I was doing. And then I said, okay, I'll try to write the copy because I wrote 2 books. I mean, how hard could it be, right? And so it was terrible. And it honestly, the only reason I became a copywriter is because during the second book is when I created the video sales letter. And the only reason I did that is because I was thinking, well, I I suck at this long form copy stuff. It must be some skill to it that I don't know. Maybe I could make a video. And then it just drilled down to like, well, I don't want to be on video. I don't want to be on camera because there's a lot of reasons for this. It's back when YouTube was just taking off. So this was like, YouTube was not a very popular thing. And so I said, well, I'll just put the words on the screen. It's like, it just seems like in retrospect, such a dumb idea. It's like, my friend Mike Geary suggested, he goes, you should do like a PowerPoint video. I was like, PowerPoint is so lame. It's so boring. I mean, no way. And I thought, well, you know what we could do is I could just put the words on the screen and kind of read it along. And then I'd turn certain words red because I knew NLP. I did study NLP when I owned an ad agency. And, so I turned it into like an ad agency, black. That's why the colors were red and black and white. And then the NLP words were highlighted, and the rest, as they say, is history. Because it just, for whatever reason, when I chunked it out and wrote only one slide at a time, it was easier for my brain for some reason. And then I got all these offers to write video sales letters. I just kept telling people, I'm not a copywriter. I'm just a fitness dude. I mean, like, I know nothing about copywriting. Well, you wrote that. Well, yeah, but so I wrote, the second one I wrote was for Mike. And he ends up paying me a lot of money to write it. And I wrote it in like 6 hours and thought, okay, well, gosh, it's, here, I don't know if this will work. It ends up making him like $50 million. And I'm like, okay, so there's something more to this. It's still my voice to this very day. That was like 20 years ago. It's so weird.
When it made $50 million, were you like, I should have charged more?
Oh yeah. I mean, totally. I've thought that throughout my entire career. Man, I wish there was some way to get like, to add a little bit of percentage points to every DSL.
Yeah. So I mean, I think this is interesting. We have a principle at Brave Thinking Institute that we teach. All of our coaches are life coaches. Our coaches. Mary's a coach who coaches people. And one of the principles that we teach, and we train our coaches to teach, is do what you can from where you are with what you have. If you want to be successful, you got to start, just do what you can where you are with what you have. So as I'm sitting here thinking about you, going, oh, I'm just going to put words on the screen. I love that because it's like, that's where powerful ideas come from. That's how success starts. It's like just the willingness to do what comes to you with what you got and let it fly and see how it goes.
The funny thing is I was doing video, like just me talking on video, and it was doing really, really bad. And back then it was like, took forever for videos to stream. And I was thinking, well, how can I get the video smaller? And I hadn't shaved for like 4 or 5 days, and I thought I didn't want to go on video. And so the only reason I didn't put myself on video that day was because I didn't want to shave. I know this is ridiculous, but I was like, I'm in a hurry. If I take a shower and shave, it'll be too late. So I was like, all these excuses I was using. So it's just kind of funny because sometimes those excuses can pay off.
As long as you still do something.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I'll try that. So that's how that happens. So yeah, I stumbled into copywriting. It was years later before I even called myself a copywriter at all. John Carlton was a guy that told me I have to start calling myself a copywriter. So I did. And then it just kind of took off from there.
So how did you keep evolving after the day you didn't want to shave? It's like, okay, I hit the jackpot on this.
I still don't want to shave.
Yeah. How do you keep evolving? Because I'm just thinking about your journey and the video sales letter and all the copy you've written and now getting into AI. Like, what is your mindset, I guess, around like just that keeping up with what's going? Because I mean, you could also say like, hey, I've done a lot of cool stuff. Like, I don't want to keep inventing new stuff. Is it like for personal creativity? Like, what's the mindset that keeps you moving?
Yeah, I've always been an inventor kind of at heart. I mean, not the guy that could invent anything with a, pair of pliers and a crescent wrench or anything, but I look at things and try to say, well, how could we do this better? How could we do this different? Or oftentimes it was like, let's figure out a way to make this work despite my weaknesses. So a lot of times I created an audio series for that. It became something known as Empower. Empower. I can't say it here. And Empower was all about like my own weaknesses with motivation. So I just decided, well, how could I create something for myself to make it a little better, and then stumbled on dichotic audio and started playing around with different ways of doing it. So it's more like inspiration through desperation kind of stuff. But then it just became like habitual to say, how can we do this differently? And I didn't want to ever plagiarize. So everybody plagiarizes to a point. Like we all learn something from somebody else, and you take ideas, but plagiarism, like kind of in a broad sense, but so it's always been that way for me. I never want to. I've never been the kind of guy to slow down or to. I can't. I'd be bored in about 5 minutes. So I have.
So you're not like selling your company and going and laying on the beach for the rest of your life drinking a Mai Tai.
We live on the beach, and it's funny. It's like we live where most people would vacation, and I've been to the beach 3 times.
That's hysterical.
We literally have it as our backyard. So I'm like, my wife is on me all the time. She's like, babe, come on. I mean, we live here. It's like, I know, but it's like, I have to go figure out some prompt for Benson or something. Yeah. And it's not like, it doesn't come from a workaholic point of view, because I don't have a good balance between my physical life and my work life, if you will. But, it more comes from being like this driven guy to want to figure things out and keep moving the needle forward.
I get that. That's why when, as coaches, a lot of times people talk about work-life balance and they're striving for work-life balance. And I'm always telling our coaches, it's very important that we share with our clients that is not a one size fits all. Like what looks or seems like workaholic, for me, I'm the same way, is life-giving to me. I love it. I love eating, sleeping, and breathing it. And so my work-life balance is going to look very different from someone who's like, I love gardening. Like I'm going to go out there all day and garden. Like you're never going to see me plant or pick a flower. So I think it's very important for all of us. I think it's important for everyone to hear that just because you work a certain number of hours or you're choosing a certain way, it doesn't mean it's not balanced. It's just balanced for you.
Yeah. And I've never understood maybe this is off topic or something, but I never understood the mentality that says that we should slow down as we get older, or that I've done exactly the opposite. I started a whole new career at 40. So I just literally changed an entire career. Most people don't do that. But I had started my own business and I held it for 14 years before that. So that's usually what people do. They don't just switch an entire career over. Right. It just became something totally different at the age of 40. And then, I started fitness modeling at 50, which is not the age that most people do that. Right. and then I just started competition when I just turned 60. So it's like I'm competing in my first show in 6 weeks. So I just don't like, I don't like to take things, I guess, at the same pace and so people, we live in a building full of people, a lot of different ages, but there's a lot of people here. It's in Florida. So there's a lot of people that are older, retired. And one of the first guys I met here, he was talking about, well, what do you do? And I was getting ready for this last year photo shoot, and I'm like carrying food around with me, and I'm like, so I love this. I just freaking love this lifestyle. And he's like, man, don't you want to retire? I was like, that to me is a question of death. I'm like, no. I mean, Benson launched on my 60th birthday.
Wow.
So, yeah. I'm like, there's no, I don't even, there's not an off switch. It's just going to keep going this way.
Well, it's just so important for everyone to hear, because I think this idea that we have to slow down and as we get older is sort of just a paradigm that we've been sold and we've bought into. Yeah. I think it's just, you get it in your mind that something's going to be a certain way, and then you go down that path. And no, but I totally resonate. I know you can't tell, for those of you listening on the podcast platforms, you're not going to be able to see me anyway, but for those of you watching on YouTube, you can't tell, but I'm 9 months pregnant right now. I'm 5 days away from my due date.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. And so I totally get there's nothing I'd rather be doing than interviewing you right now, because I love this work and I love bringing it to our coaches. And so there's, a paradigm there too, where it's like, don't you want to put your feet up and whatever? And I'm like, I will. I know I will when the baby comes. And why don't we have fun while we're waiting?
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. Well, congratulations.
I totally resonate with that.
Are you keeping boy or girl quiet, or do you know?
No, it's a boy.
Oh, cool.
It's a boy. Yeah, I'm excited. I think awesome. It's going to be fantastic. So I'm kind of excited that for this first baby, it's a boy, because I think the thing that terrifies me about if it was a girl would be I have to brush hair and do all that stuff and learn how to put a ponytail in a kid's hair or something. That sounds complicated to me. So
now all you have to do is you guys have to learn how to throw a football. That's pretty much
it. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So the next thing I want to know is tell me about the evolution of when did you start getting interested in AI and when did you know that it was going to become a big thing? Because it seems like you were as far as I understand, it seems like you were kind of on the front end of realizing that this was coming.
Yeah, very much so. It's just one of the few things I can say I was actually ahead of the curve. I guess VSL by proxy, only by the sense that, I just stumbled on creating that stupid thing. That ended up being pretty cool, but it wasn't like a stroke of invention. But we started seeing in 2010, I created an app called Accelerator, dumb name, but that's what it was called. And it was to create VSLs, but it was just software that was designed to go through and help people create the slides for a VSL. And it was literally like, my name is name and I want to help you goal. So it's like, very rudimentary kind of stuff. But it was harder than it looked because we came up with like 9 different variations for every single slide. So you would choose one, then you could choose another. And then the users would have to fill everything out. And I mean, people thought this was like, really, it was groundbreaking software back then, right?
Yeah.
And it was like my course in a software. That's really all it was meant to do, to help people get through it better. But in the process, we had to figure out like, well, how do you break apart every single sentence in a VSL and make it make sense? What are you talking about here? What is the difference between a goal and a promise, or what we call a primary goal, the number one thing you want to achieve, versus secondary goals? What else do you want to achieve? What do you even name those things? Primary goals, secondary goals. So I had to come up with names for every single one of these and break everything out. And it was like, I guess the math geek in me kind of was like enthused by it, or the science geek in me, because I like to tear things apart and figure out if I can make it work. And so I was tearing apart language, figuring out, well, what on earth do you even call this? And having to pull apart the words that could be, interchanged with any offer at all. Like, I want to help you could change for anything. And I was getting so pedantic about this. I was like, what if it's not an I? What if it's a we? It's like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. It was so complicated. But so finally we settled on, me and my team. I was the one doing it with just one other guy, and we settled on, I forget how many. There's like 89 different variables or something like that. And then that got pulled over into CopyPro in 2016, and that was pre-AI. And about 2018, 2019. That's when things started to change, where CopyPro was really struggling. We couldn't sell it. We couldn't give it away sometimes. And so my other company, Digital Publisher, started looking into this what's coming out with AI. At the time, no one knew about ChatGPT or anything, but there was a company called Jasper that was just coming out. It just came out, and they asked me hey, would you want to be the first A-list copywriter to have a VSL in Jasper? So, and maybe this is inspirational for your coaches. I don't know, but so most people would say, like, no way am I going to take the thing I created and the thing I have software for at the time. I still have the software, right? This is now 10 years later, or 15 years later almost, and put it inside of an AI. But I knew from breaking this out already and knowing the limitations of 3.5, which is what the GPT was back then. I knew that there's no way. Because I'd played with it long enough to go, yeah, I'll give it to you. Sure. Yeah, we can do this. Totally. Because I was like, okay, because I'm like, so I shipped it all over to their tech guys, and about a week later they come back, they go, yeah, that will never work. It's like, and they were like, okay, so that was too ambitious. Maybe we could put a 5-minute version. So I gave them that. They go, yeah, that won't work either. So we came up with a 1-minute VSL version that was in Jasper AI. And this was like 2021, I guess. I don't know, something like that. But that got me thinking, seeing how they were doing it, working with their AI guys, going, okay, what if we did it differently than that? And the same thing. I started thinking, what? No, I'm not a prompt guy, but I've been dissecting language for 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
And so I started working with, learning how to do the prompting stuff on the side, and working with a friend of mine, Darby Rollins. And, he's showing me, well, here's how I create this prompt. I said, well, okay, but what if we did it this way? And I just started, I don't know why I came up with this idea, but I said, what if we do something before we do the prompt? Like, maybe this is the problem. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what if we gave it like more context? And this is way before you could upload documents to, ChatGPT or anything like that. And so we're like, well, you can't upload anything. I go, yeah, what if we, and we were just thinking, I was thinking, well, what if we did it like this? And I said, well, this is how we do it in, this is really funny. This is how we did it in Accelerator in 3X VSL is what we changed. This is how we did it in Now VSL. And I said, bracket, primary goal, bracket equals, typed it out, And I started doing this and said, well, what if we just run this through ChatGPT? And the next thing that came out was like, we're like, holy crap, that sounds like 10 times better. It's like, so I'm like, wow. I said, it's kind of like a pre-prompt. And then I went, okay, so I wrote this down, pre-prompting, and I wrote it down. So like, okay, so pre-prompt, it's stuff you put in front of the prompt, and then we trademark that. And then we got really scientific with it. And after at first I was thinking there's just no way AI could do this. And within 6 months, Digital Publishers building Benson. Yeah. And we originally built it to be VSL Pro. It's called VSL Pro. So we were going to it's going to be the world's first AI that can actually do a VSL. That will create the VSL completely for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so, but my goal wasn't a 1 minute VSL. My goal was a 60-minute VSL, the whole thing. Right. And because I would think if you pre-prompt it and you train it, and you basically it's technical jargon, but it's like there's something called few shot training where you can basically override AI's native learning, if you will. Like AI is intelligent, but what it knows can be overridden. If you can say, it's sort of like think of it this way: if you go to an illustrator to hire them to do a portrait, and they have a style, right? And you go, no, I want you to do this style right here, and let's say that they can do it. They go, oh, okay. And then he does that style. Well, that's completely different than what he would normally do or she would normally do. That's kind of what we're doing with AI. So instead of doing this style, do this style. And before you even do this style, think of it in terms of this equation. And we send this equation. So basically it was an equation and said, now solve for X. And we would this is how we tricked it. It's like AI is really dumb when it comes to creativity, but it's pretty good at solving for X. And so we just made it solve for X. And we started getting this insane copy out of it. And the next thing you know, when we launched, it became Benson. But we had my entire VSL, long form VSL in Benson, and now we got dozens of them trained in there. So it's an entire webinar links.
I was going to say, I heard that it could even write a webinar.
Whole webinar, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, but we were the very first to do this, and we had to figure out the length of it was an issue because at the time 3.5 4 wasn't even out, and 3.5 was just a model in ChatGPT, and it was limited to a certain degree of, they call it tokens, but we'll just say words, right? Mm-hmm. To us, it's basically words. So you could only get so many words to come out of the thing. So you can't get 5,000 words to come out at once, so you had to limit it. So I said, well, what if we just broke the VSL into the same way I broke up VSL? I broke it up into 100 parts before. That's a little crazy. Let's break it into 10, Yeah. And so that became it. And then it became 10 parts, and then we figured out, if we do it in 10 parts, then we can tell it to send this kind of thing on this part, but only this kind of thing. And then we got really nuanced, and that's why Benson sounds like it does. It sounds very human because there's a lot of human components to it that you don't have to mess with, but we do.
Okay, so I want to come back and ask about Benson for coaches, but this is coming to my mind. So as life coaches, we're always, at least I am, and I'm always encouraging our coaches to do this, always looking at what was happening in the person's internal world to make the move or not make the move or whatever. So you had Copy Pro. Was that what it was called? Mm-hmm. I used it, by the way, in my coaching business. And you're seeing that AI is coming in all of this. So one of the things that many of our clients navigate and many of our coaches navigate is you're thinking about making a change and fear comes up. Like, what if this doesn't work? What if this doesn't go? And it seems like in your career, you've just been willing to go with the flow of the next thing. Have you experienced fear? And if you have experienced that fear of what if this doesn't work and am I making the right move? How have you personally been able to overcome that?
Yeah. So fear is I experience it all the time. They say that the adage of everyone feels it, but the question is, can you move through it? Right? It's not the question, do you feel it? It's what do you do with it? Fortunately, I had great parents. My dad was I was born to much older parents. So my dad was 54 when I was born, and he fought in World War II. crazy to think that that's true, but he fought in World War II. So you grow up with the greatest generation, as they say, for a reason. And so you learn a whole lot about acting through fear and just going through it. And I grew up in martial arts and football, motocross and bodybuilding and all this very like fear-based stuff. And then I dealt with crazy health issues, like serious life and death health issues. So yeah, I kind of felt fear and learned how to navigate around it. And so it's never stopped me. It's, you know, I had a massive heart attack at 38 because I had heart disease when I was 21. I was born with it. And so you don't usually have heart attacks at 38.
Yeah.
You don't, you know, especially the kind that nearly take you out and care flight you out to a hospital and stuff. And so, and that was the painful kind, you know, the kind where you're clutching your chest. And, you know, I'm the youngest guy by 25 years in the ER ward. And the guy's going, man, I've never seen this. This is really messed up stuff. I mean, really bad. It's called familial hypolipidemia. But so you kind of get face to face with this fear thing. And it certainly isn't fun. I mean, having all these weird health stuff. But it was like, okay, well, how can I run toward it? And so with that, I was under a 300-pound squat in 2 weeks after my heart attack. And yeah, it's not so for people that train that heavy. That for me, that's still a lot of weight because I've never been that strong. But that's a lot of weight to be under. But I did this cautiously. Like I was working with a team of guys, and I was hooked up to all this electrodes for 2 weeks prior to that, and I knew that okay, all this kind of stuff. But to psychologically get over that and still get under there and feel your heart rate get up to 180 during the bottom of a squat, and when you just got off of 2 weeks ago, you just had surgery. And so that's kind of what I was kind of trained myself to do. It's like, okay, do the thing that scares you the most, the fastest that you can within cautious reason. So you're not throwing caution to the wind. And I just had not a heart attack, thankfully, but I had another kind of a serious scare here recently, and did the same thing. I was like, oh, I'm like literally on the way to the hospital. I'm going, I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep going exactly what I'm doing. And so I just set this parameters, like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing it. And it ended up being something really trivial, to be honest. But it would, at the time, it felt like it was like the end of the world. And so like, but in the time, I already made the decision. I was like, I'm already going to do this. There's nothing going to stop me. And so there's this mentality of like, okay, once you set your mind to it, that no, I'm just going to do it anyway. Yeah. And your body almost has to adjust. Your mind just leads it. So I take the same thing, and so that does not mean I don't feel the fear, because believe you me, I was scared shitless. But yeah, I feel it and go, okay, well, how do you run toward it? Yeah, that's been the question. So the same thing with AI. It's like, how do I run toward this? And I ended up running so far toward it. I started an AI company, and it was that's just been. Yeah, most people don't start companies at 60, but yeah, I did. And
yeah, well, it sounds like to me that this.
I'm a weirdo.
Yeah, totally. Like, no, it sounds like to me that this commitment of keeping moving forward. Yeah, it just is valuable enough to you that's why you're willing to push through the fear, overcome the fear, go the farthest you can with the fear.
Yeah. I mean, none of us gets out of here alive. So it's like, right. On your deathbed, I go through I love coaches. My ex-fiance was a life coach. So I said that before. And she's really, really great at what she did. But the bottom line is this isn't supposed to be a rah-rah speech at all, because these are just logical decisions. I think of it as just a thing of rationality versus anything else. But what are you going to remember on your deathbed? If you're lucky enough to have like a very peaceful deathbed experience, what do you think you're going to remember? And most people are not going to remember that they took out the trash on time. I tell my wife that, and you're definitely not going to remember all the times you played it safe. Right? That's not what's going to come to mind. You're probably going to remember the things that the biggest challenges, the biggest obstacles you overcame, the biggest risks you took. And hopefully you're not going to dwell on regrets. So
yeah, exactly. One of the things that Mary will often say is she'll say, you'll understand as you start to overcome these fears, start to live more of a life that you're enjoying and that you're in love with, that you realize it's not really the milestones, although they're great. It's like, okay, I started this company, or I hit my first $1 million, or I did whatever I did. But she's like, the thing that's going to stand out most to you is who you became in that process. Because that's something no one can ever take from you. It's pretty astounding when you look at where you came from. You're like, wow, it's like the thing itself, you're always going to want the next thing. But the thing that you can really like rest your hat on, I guess you could say, hang your hat on, is like, that was pretty magnificent, that transformation that happened within me.
Yeah. If you have something in your life that is a daily journey, that you absolutely love the journey, and I am fortunate that I have multiple things in my life that I love the journey. My wife and I have spent 4 hours talking today, and relationships are a journey. They're like, there's so much to explore there. And when you're married to your best friend, it's super advantageous. And we can sit there and talk about like what's next on the journey. And then the entire being into competitive bodybuilding now, it's like it's 24/7. So it's there's never the stage is just, that's not the goal. The goal is everything you do before that, right? And the same thing goes true for building a business or whatever. If you don't love what you're doing, if you don't like, if building it isn't as fun as getting your first, when we hit $1 million faster than any business I've ever ran, and it was like we hit it, and it's like I didn't even know. I was like, I wasn't looking at the bank. I have no idea how much money we have in the bank. I'm so not motivated by that. We just got another investor today. We just opened up a seed round for this, and I haven't told my wife yet. I was like, oh, by the way, honey, we just got, because that's not the driving point. The driving point is I'm much more excited about, man, you should see what we figured out how to do with this focuser tool. We figured out how to make it do this. It's like, and so if you're focused, and I know if I'm talking to coaches, you get this, because your passion is helping other people achieve the life of their dreams and see the things that they can't see. I know that's got to be the driving passion. The money does follow that. It does. If you just find what you love to do in the money thing too. You have to have, like, if you just hope for it to come, probably not going to happen. But if you're loving what you're doing and you apply any strategies, and I think copywriting is the best strategy to apply myself, but I'm a little biased. Yeah. But that's the thing that I could take. I could take almost anybody's offer and make them way more money with better copy. And you can't say that about any other medium. Like if you say, well, I could do the same thing with video. Well, video's copy.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Unless you're a mime, it's like, yeah. Even then you're still communicating.
Still copy,
yeah, exactly. So it's really copy. It really is.
No,
copy.
I'm so glad that you brought up this point about like the passion for what you do and what motivates you, because I think a lot of times our coaches, they absolutely have the passion for helping people. They want to make a giant difference in the world. But a lot of times they've tricked themselves into thinking like they have to focus on something else other than that in order to be successful. Whereas I think if you keep the mission at the center, like the reason I started my coaching business in the first place, and the reason I came to Brave Thinking Institute, even though it wasn't logical financially, I already owned my own multi-million-dollar company. The reason we make the decisions we do, if we're doing it from the right place, is because there's some sort of mission, personal mission that we have, or personal passion that goes beyond anything else. And so I think our coaches sometimes think, oh, I have to sacrifice that because I got to figure out how to do this first. And it's like, no, lean into the passion, because that's the thing that's going to keep you going. And that's the thing that's actually going to cause you to enjoy the journey. Because if it sucks the whole time, then you're not probably going to attract the money anyway. And you were just suffering the whole time leading up to trying to make it somewhere. So this is great advice, John. Thank you for going into the mindset with me, because I think it's important for people to see. We look at you and we're like, oh, he's super successful. He's probably not afraid of anything. And yet, of course, there's a mindset thing happening behind it, right?
Yeah.
So
if I could share one more thing, I am a big believer in sharing foibles and things that are not so pretty, but I'm a diehard rationalist. Like I said, I'm very, a skeptical mindset. Skeptical not being in the negative sense of the word, but it's someone who's using reason and deduction, and yet, and my wife jokes with me all the time about this. It's like there is one thing that I'm like, I have a completely irrational, borderline phobia. It's not quite a phobia, but it's borderline that level of irrationality, and it has to do with anything dealing with finances. I don't want to know. I don't want to look at bank balances. I don't want to know. So it's like, and she's dealt with this like to this ridiculous degree. She's like, she'll come in and she'll say, "Babe, I've got really good news about that. I don't want to." And it's so weird. It's like I know where it came from. It comes just so all of you know, it comes from dealing with decades of owning my own business, and then having, these really great months, and then kind of stable, and then you hit a couple of months where you're like, how am I going to pay everyone? How am I going to make it for the end of the month? And people look at you, especially if you have some degree of notoriety in your industry, as you never face that, and it's just nonsense. I mean, Ryan Dias, I don't know if you know Ryan, digital marketer. The guys, definitely huge marketers, and $1 billion marketing company, and he started TNC, Traffic Conversion. So, and so Ryan is a good friend, and I called him. This is in 2017, 16, so I can't remember the exact date, but I just had somebody embezzle money. The IRS hit us for an extra huge tax bill, and we had a terrible month all at the same time. And I literally heard the words, "You're broke," from my accountant, and I haven't heard those words in my entire career. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking here, man, this is late in my career, and I'm going through I'm hearing "broke," and I call Ryan, and I'm like, just that level of fear, that level of where you just everything, the world starts getting really narrow, and all the adages you say about money. Well, money isn't everything. Man, money makes a lot of things easier. Let's just get clear. And when you don't have to worry about the money aspect of things get a lot easier. That Tony Robbins says, money doesn't make you happy, but it allows you to arrive at your problems in style. Which I think is 100% true. So I'd much rather be arriving at my problems in style and worrying about like where the money is going to come from to pay bills. And so I call Ryan, and I'm like, bro, I feel almost embarrassed. Just here's the deal, this kind of stuff. He's going, dude, it's like I had the same problem as you multiple times, except with another zero or two behind it. It's like, and he just put it in totally different perspective, because I just had to lay off 16,000 people or something so crazy. It was 1,600 people or something like that. And so I'm like, oh crap. I mean, so he put it in a perspective where I could go, I understand. He goes, now I got over that, and you're going to get over that, because you can pull money out of a hat. Like you and Perry pull money out of a hat. But if you haven't fired somebody, the next time I talk to you, I will never talk to you again about this. And so he just held my feet to the fire, man. And so the last time I went through that, I was like, no, I went in and fired 4 people that day, because I knew that this wasn't going to work, and never look back. And so yes, and so probably that's where that little phobia comes from.
Yes.
It's like not wanting to know, right? But it's still, it's funny, because we can kind of joke about it, and I also have systems in play to where I don't really have to now, but now it's kind of breached over into the ludicrous, because you don't even know the good stuff, right?
Right. You're like, don't tell me anything. No,
everybody's got fears.
I'm so grateful that you shared this, because many coaches who are beginning, or they're making their first $100,000, or they're replacing their, salary, are experiencing the fears over money, and they're looking at someone like you, or they're looking at me, or they're looking at whoever, and they're saying like, they're not having that challenge. And it's such a made up story that we tell ourselves that someone at this level is not experiencing any of this. And so I'm very grateful for your transparency that like, none of us are alone in this. The life of an entrepreneur is feast or famine, up and down. Let's see what I can navigate today. It is. And like, none of us are alone in that. And anybody who says they're not, whatever, because we're all going through the ups and downs of a crazy decision to be a solopreneur or an entrepreneur. And it's very, very helpful to hear for these coaches that they're not alone in any of it.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, there's definitely far more profitable times than those kind of down times. But when those down times hit, they're way more, for me at least, they were way more impactful. But just to pull us out of that conversation, during that time of that happening, I made 2 business decisions that night on the phone after I got off the phone with Ryan, that in the next 60 days, my income for the year had doubled.
Yeah.
And it was more out of anger than it was anything else. It was more like out of, I will never feel this again. I will never, ever, ever feel this again. And so now if I ever come close to feeling that again, I go and right back into that. No, I'm never going to feel it again. And whatever you need to do to motivate yourself. And when I say anger, it wasn't anger at the world or anything. It was more like just, anger is probably a bad word. It's more like just kind of pissed off at yourself. Like you get lethargic. You look at and you have to look square at yourself and go, what did I do to create this? Even though X, Y, and Z did happen. So, but yeah, if you're listening to that, we all go through it, and some of us go through it with another 0 or 2, like my buddy Ryan said behind there. But even they go through it. Billionaires go broke. I mean, it's Tony Robbins, one of my heroes. He went broke multiple times, and he's had troubles in his life. Everybody does, but it's what you do with it. Just get out of it. You can get out of it. Just have a mindset that says, I will get out of this no matter what, and you will.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think failure is way more informative, way more informative for creativity and what we want to do next. And as coaches, failure is the thing that actually makes you a great coach, because you're navigating through it yourself. And then when a client comes to you and they're navigating something similar, you've got a tool belt of all these ways in which you overcame it and stories that you can tell. And so I think when failure happens, it's like, all right, let's mine this data and let's do something really fantastic out of it. You'll appreciate this. When I was a beginning coach, I didn't know what I was doing. And I built my first funnel, having no idea what I was doing. I'm sure if we went back and read the copy, you'd be like, oh, I feel so sorry for you. There's just, I did what I could. And
sure, yeah.
I spent $15,000, which at that time, it was like, it might have been $1 million, $15,000 on this funnel.
Right.
And it totally flopped. Didn't convert at all. It sucked. And I called up Matt Boggs. He does the marketing for us coaches here at Brave Thinking Institute. And I was like, Matt, tell me that this is salvageable. Because to me, $15,000, I'm hearing all these voices in my head like, you could have bought a rental property with that. You could have this. You're throwing money down the toilet. I'm hearing all these. I'm like, Matt, tell me something is salvageable. And he looks at the whole thing. And he's like, nothing is salvageable. So I'm just freaking out. And so he reminded me of a quote by Napoleon Hill that goes, every heartbreak, every failure, every adversity carries within it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. But like any seed, you have to find it, plant it, nourish it, and harvest it.
Right.
So Matt reminds me of this, and I'm like, all right, well, for as big of the failure I feel right now, this better be a big ass seed of benefit.
Right.
But
it'd be a freaking,
sequoia tree. Grow me like a beanstalk or something.
Right.
But what Matt did with me that day and what was super helpful is reminding me of that. And I just kept saying to myself, I'm going to have the benefit of this. I'm absolutely going to have the benefit of this. And an idea came, and the idea was this program I was trying to sell in this funnel. If I'm honest with myself, that's not the program I want to be selling. And it was such an awakening and such a great moment. And so I always like to share that with our coaches, that you can hold it as failure. You can get all depressed about it. You can get all shameful about it. Or you can look at it and go, okay, I know this is going to be way more informative than success. So let's mine it. Let's see what's in there. Get in there and do it.
But that's such a good, not only you probably had to go through that to even realize that's not the product you really want to be selling, and have something push you over the edge to go, okay, I really want to sell X, and something tells me X worked out pretty well.
Yeah. X worked out great. And it's sometimes I think we don't want to look at these things until, if that funnel had worked, good enough. Yeah, I wouldn't have looked at it, but then I would have been like, why am I just kind of flatlining? So, so fabulous. So I want to go back to Benson for a second, because I want to know about the software and the capabilities of it. If someone's a coach wanting to grow their business, wanting to quit their day job, how can Benson help them just have an easier time of writing their copy, selling their program? Just tell us a little bit more about that. Yeah.
So Benson is promptless AI. So that's the very first aha moment here, because we talked about how prompts are not the way to go. So the question we started asking ourselves is, what if we could remove the prompting from the equation? How would that look? What would that look like? And we trademarked it. And since then, 3 companies have stolen it. So it's like, you come up with a good hook, people are going to steal it. But we were the first to do this, and to basically take the user interface between the AI and the application out of the process, to where all you had to do is copy and paste. Now, I proved the point by saying, okay, what if I could get, no, we're talking about A-list level copy. We're not talking about copy from ChatGPT. We're talking about copy that actually converts. What if we could get A-list level copy from a Wikipedia page, from a Google search? Mm-hmm. Can you do a Google search? Mm-hmm. So on the first webinar, I did a Google search. I said, let's search for something. And I just came up with, I didn't have anything off the scripted. So I said, let's do chiropractic care. I know very little about it.
Yeah.
So I've been to chiropractors, but I won't let them touch me now. But so I went to I Google, and it's so funny. The very first page was a Wikipedia page. I go, okay, even worse. I'm going to click on the Wikipedia page because God knows that's the bastion of great copy is Wikipedia.
Right.
And so I just grabbed the definition of from chiropractic care, and it was like, I don't know, 100 words or something like that, and copy and pasted it into Benson. And I clicked literally we have what's called the magic button. Click the magic button, and within 20 seconds, my entire marketing blueprint was created for a fictional product, new word. Just invented a new one. But a fictional product, yeah. And so, and from there, I was able to take that blueprint and turn it into a VSL. So if you need a sales letter or a VSL or an email campaign or an ad or an advertorial or a website, for coaches. Let's say you need a coaching specific VSL, then you just go into Benson and choose that framework because it's been trained on coaching VSLs. And then it's literally copy paste, fill in a few fields that maybe that we wouldn't know, like what's your name or, what's the name of your offer, how much you're selling it for. It takes you literally a minute to fill that in. And then as it needs things, it'll prompt you for things as you go along. Like, oh, I don't know this. Do you have like a nickname, really like no copy and you click it and out comes this copy that seems like there's a copywriter living in your computer.
Wow.
That's
so awesome. So how do you, so for ChatGPT, if I was going to use it, I'm going to use it to maybe prompt my ideas, but I'm going to go and change like 75% of what it did.
Right.
With Benson, are you finding that the coach, let's say, will really have to change like little or nothing because of the higher quality of the copy?
If you go to our page, you'll see there's a lot of video testimonials, and most people say that they're kind of amazed that they don't have to edit much at all. But I'm a big believer in copy editing, but we've refined the editing process into what we call refiners. And so if you select the refiners below, the refiners can do a lot of the editing for you. Like if you say, well, you select a paragraph and go, this paragraph is too long. You can just click make it shorter. Or I want this to be more dynamic. You can click it and you can hit these little tools called Focuser, and then you could choose like the fields that you have in your blueprint that are more dynamic. And you just click and choose, there's a lot of clicking and choosing. And then of course I'm all for someone manually adding things in there, but if you've got 85%, 90% done,
yes,
we have pro marketers using it and getting 85, 90% of it done, and they're converting it, $1 million a month offers.
That's so cool.
With the rest of it being human input or refiners or something they already had, for example. But yeah, that's the goal, and we want to push it to 98%. That's where we want to get to.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. It's interesting. Over time, I wrote a lot of my own copy, and there were times when either something copywriter came with a package I bought, or I tried to hire someone to do copy. Mm-hmm. And I was always a little bit, and I don't want to, this is not like tarnishing the name of copywriters, but I was just always surprised at how like mediocre it always felt.
Yeah.
And what a talent and a skill copywriting is. So to think like for our coaches who, for the most part, don't know much about copywriting, they're not marketers, super heart-centered people, just want to help people. Having something like Benson where they can just put it in there and not have to think about the thing that they're not good at anyway and they don't know how to do and is getting them stuck. Like that's a really, really cool thing for a heart-centered entrepreneur to be able to do what their gift and talent is and not have to worry about the thing that they don't know anything about, or hiring someone who they can't really oversee the quality of the work because they don't know anything about it themselves. Like it's just such a neat thing for them to just be in their zone of genius and let you guys do your zone of genius.
Yeah, that's the goal. And just to really take the most expensive part of marketing is copywriting and ad placement. Those are the two big expenses, right?
Yeah.
So if you can take an ad placement is completely dependent upon copywriting. The better the copy, the more the ads convert, then you can afford to pay for the ads. So it's really coming back to copy still.
Yeah.
So you take that expense all but out of the equation, and you get that expense down, under $1,000 a year. I mean, that's you can't even. I charge like $5,000 an email when I wrote for people. So it's. I know that sounds really ridiculous, but we write really, really high.
You're that good,
emails.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you never have to do that again, or $100,000 for a VSL. That was my asking rate when I retired.
Do you ever watch? Do you ever watch Law and Order SVU?
No, I've never seen it.
Okay. So the main character is like, this has been like a 20 season show, and she's Detective Benson.
Oh, okay.
And so I was thinking, as I'm hearing about the Benson software, I'm like, Detective Benson is my favorite Benson, but I think this is going to become my favorite Benson is this software.
There you go. Cool.
Anybody who watches Law and Order will understand. John, I ask this question to every guest as the last question that I ask, and I'm going to ask it to you.
Sure.
So if you were a life coach and you had to start a business from scratch, meaning you can't take your email list with you, you can't take your contacts with you, you can take your awareness, but you have to start this business from scratch. You were a life coach.
Yeah.
What is the first thing that you would do to start growing your business?
The very first thing I would do is one of two things, if I can. The very first thing I would probably do is I would do if I knew I was good at what I did. So I knew I was a good coach. I would put something on Facebook and say, I'm taking 3 people and I'm going to change their lives in the next 90 days, and it's for free. All I ask is that you spread the word around, and that so you can apply for the change your life in 90 days or whatever it would be. So whatever I say change your life, very, like if I'm a coach for wealth, I'd say change your income, hit your income goals in 90 days, whatever you can claim on Facebook. And then I would do that for free and say and do this as a contest. And say, so where I'm taking people to come on, and then I would pick 3, and then I would have probably 30 that would still be around, and then you've got 27 people that you can immediately call on. So that's a really cool little thing that you can do. And the second thing I would do is much more time consuming, and that is create a YouTube channel. So the thing that I've learned from YouTube, Leanne, a lady that worked for me for many years, she helped me build my YouTube channel, and now we have the channel ended up doing really, really well. And if you have somebody build the channel that knows what they're talking about, and she definitely does. I'm working now with another girl that they know how to do this stuff really well.
Yes.
You can get organic traffic, and you could be helping people, having fun, getting organic traffic, setting this up right, and you don't need to quit your job. You don't need to. It's worth the expense if you can say. So when people say I want to start a business, what I would do is do the Facebook thing, and then and you'll need copy for that. So,
yes.
Okay, but that's not a lot of copy. So it's just it's not a lot of copy. So that's a good thing about it. The second thing I would do is, like, if you really want to do this right, create a YouTube channel that's focused on one thing, and find somebody to help you in the YouTube space. Because if you can hire that out, if you could afford, when somebody says I'm going to start my own business, they usually think of marketing expenses, or they say they had some degree of money. I would put all my money into somebody that is an expert at building YouTube channels. That's what I would do.
Beautiful, so brilliant. John Benson.
Well, I would buy Benson and then do that.
Yeah,
I have to say that. Yeah.
Okay, John Benson, my new favorite Benson, best Benson of all time. You have given us so much gold today. I thank you for your wisdom. I thank you for your time and for all the inspiration you brought to all of us coaches. We really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much, Laura. It was great talking to you.
If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you never miss a new upload. You can help our channel continue to grow as we invest in creating more great content for coaches. Lastly, check the description below for helpful links to the resources mentioned in this video. Thank you, and have an amazing day.